Well, hello everyone. I hope we don't go through our napping period after lunch. We are going to be talking about innovation, so it is going to be something exciting for us. First, on a personal note, I had a chance to go to Israel last year, and we had our local team. And by the way, my name is Jitendra Kavathekar with Accenture. I run open innovation for the company. And we went to Israel, and I was just blown away. The energy of the VCs, the energy of the startups, of course, the universities, the large corporates that are in Israel, and the government, all working together to really kind of create this startup nation, of course, and the accelerators. And in fact, we were just talking this morning, Israel is the accelerator. If you look at what the output has been and how fast the velocity of these great young companies coming through Israel, I can only think of Israel as the actual accelerator. So I have the pleasure of leading us through the innovation session. It's a topic near and dear to my heart, and I think to many people in the audience. Why don't we get right into it? We, by the way, do have a presence in Israel. We're always looking to see what we could be doing more in Israel. We have a list of 50 companies that we're already engaged with, and from the startup side to the clients. And we're going to continue to expand that as we go into the future. Open innovation for Accenture is our way of engaging with the startup ecosystems around the world, and the universities, and large R&D labs, particularly corporate R&D labs like Microsoft Research, SAP Labs, et cetera, GE Research, to find synergies with these ecosystems and what Accenture is taking to our clients. Accenture, as you know, is a 300,000 plus person company, more than 30 billion in revenue, and we're a services company. We do consulting of all different types, from technology to strategy and more. And to serve the global 2000s, which are our clients, how do we find synergies with the signals that are coming from these innovation ecosystems, and how do we partner together and go to market together? And effectively, we end up being a bridge for these startups. So if we think about this problem and we think about the opportunity, I think many people in the room will resonate with this. Every large company in the world today wants to crack the code on how to work with an early stage startup and tap into that creative, focused energy that's innovating on specific solutions for pain points that the global corporates already have. At the same time, the startups need to get to market. They need to have a buyer of their products. They need to eventually have an exit strategy. And so the global 2000 companies represent the market, both from a biz dev perspective and a corp dev perspective. But if you look at the cultures of these two worlds, you look at the startup community and you look at how it's not really about ROI, it is about disruption. The rate of change is very high. They're pivoting all the time. It's completely different than the decision-making style and the culture that we see in the corporate world, where it is ROI driven. Any investment you put in there, the question comes up, what's the return on that investment? Change velocity is dampened. And while it's really cool and sexy to talk about disruption in the boardrooms, at the C-level suites, it's kind of scary when it comes to the people who are going to execute it on a day-to-day basis. Completely two different cultures. And the question is, how do these cultures come together? How can we be a bridge maker between these two worlds so that we can connect the supply of innovation, which is growing at a rapid rate with all the venturing money going in, connecting the supply of innovation to the demand for that innovation, which is embodied in what we see with large corporate companies. So there's a huge opportunity. And for those that are investors, those that are in the services world, those that are the bridge makers, we have a huge opportunity for ourselves as we go through this. I think Israel is very similar to Silicon Valley in the sense that it's a destination for many innovators around the world. And if you look at the global 2000 companies, they are all wanting to have some presence, some sort of experience of being in these places, whereas Silicon Valley, Tel Aviv, Bangalore, London, New York, And as we found with our clients, there's kind of a maturity curve here. And it starts with tourism, right? It starts with this innovation tourism. You know, we don't know what we don't know, so we need to go there. And we just spend a week, let's say in Silicon Valley or Tel Aviv. If it's in Silicon Valley, you want to meet 5 VCs, talk to 3 or 4 different startups, go eat at the Google cafeteria, maybe ride in a Tesla, right? That's the Silicon Valley experience. And what happens is, of course, there's a lot of inspiration that comes from that, especially the Napa wine is also a good part of the tour. But not much translates after that. It probably is a necessary step along the way of maturing and getting to the point of how do we actually connect with the innovation ecosystems, but it's not the end point. And so what happens then is some inspiration hits, some budget gets allocated, and so a corporate might put 2 people in that region. Let's say it's Tel Aviv, or let's say it's Silicon Valley. And they're going to do the scan of the startups. Or maybe a little bit more bolder, they might start up a venture fund, a corporate venture fund. And corporate venturing is on the rise, peak levels. So that's a play to engage with these ecosystems. The other common play is to partner with an accelerator, set up a lab, right? So there's various plays there. And probably the majority of the clients that we work with are in that second category, second level of maturity of engaging. But what happens is that there's still a chasm. And the chasm is not so much between the corporate and the startup, because there is now connection. The chasm is internally within the corporate. The chasm is between that outpost in Tel Aviv and the P&L leader for the business that's somewhere else in another part of the world, that has their day job to actually run the business. And there's the chasm there. And so the effectiveness of these programs are very effective from a brand-enhancing perspective to say, hey, we're a company that knows how to engage, but not very effective from an actual transformation agent, which is what the promise of engaging with these ecosystems was supposed to present. And so the chasm is, of course, our opportunity at Accenture, and many of you in the room have this opportunity. The aspiration, we feel, is to go to the next level of maturity, which is start with the pain point in mind, start with what that P&L leader in the back office, what are they trying to achieve? What are their goals, whether it's adding top-line growth or reducing cost? Start there, and that might just be a project. Or start at the strategic level. What is the large $100 million spend? What is that large transformation going to be for the entire company? Start with that. Because when you start with that pain point, it's like what Steve Jobs said with when the iPhone came out, right? There's an app for that. Same thing here. Start with the pain point. There's a startup for that. There's no shortage of great startups in the world. There's shortage of really defining what your problem is so that you can actually then do that transformation. And then you can go find that right startup, and then you can figure out what the right engagement models are, and then you can start looking at what works for the startup, what works for yourselves. But to do that, you need to have that culture of innovation, and you probably do have to go through these steps of maturity to get to that point where you can have meaningful open innovation models. I'm going to run through this very quickly because I think I'm dominating the time. We want to get to our speakers. So we think of the world as discovering the problem as well as the startup. We think about moving to a phase where it's really about rapid prototyping and then getting to the deployment phase, which is not easy, right? So it's not just about taking a startup's technology and integrating it. It's training your 10,000 customer service representatives of this new process, right? It's the business process re-engineering. All the change management comes along with it. That is the big transformation. And that's the opportunity, of course, for Accenture and everybody in this room. We have open innovation centers around the world that are already solidly in place or in the process of emerging now. And innovation and open innovation is a global sport. It doesn't matter if you are a company in Norway. You will be interested in the cybersecurity startup in Tel Aviv and the cloud computing platform company in Silicon Valley, right? So having that global picture is very important. And so for us, it's very important to have this global platform. OK, so enough about us. And that's our credential slide. We do a lot. But let's move on.